Community Unity Now, the D Tycoon Show. My co-host, Bill Morton, president of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, is still recovering from his injury. I am Trudy Leong, administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. Our very special guest today is Awisi Quartey Bustos. She is running for the U.S. Senate seat that is being vacated by the retiring Dick Durbin. Welcome, Awisi.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So first of all, you are a non-establishment candidate. So what does non-establishment mean?
Well, I mean, I'm running as a Democrat, but non-establishment means I'm not part of the, I guess, range of candidates that have already had an opportunity at serving. So currently we have a lieutenant governor and 2 members of Congress. And so non-establishment means that it's fresh blood, new ideas, and a new generation and a new opportunity to bring the voices of everyday people to, the United States Senate and to Congress to serve in a better capacity.
So in other words, you might mean that these current members of Congress that want to run for the seat, they're not addressing in their own positions issues that you feel are important. What are those issues?
Well, I believe, in this time and in this day and age, first of all, the biggest issue right now is our national security and the way the United States relates with the world. Currently, the situation in Venezuela and what's happened is very disheartening. And I think every American who believes in the rule of law and Constitution and your ability to engage with countries in a bilateral, collaborative way that ensures world peace is paramount. And so how the U.S. moves will definitely lay the groundwork and the foundation for the next 100 years and how we interact with our neighbors all over the world, especially when we do need natural resources and we do need to be able to trade and negotiate and coexist, right? And the current way of operating really hasn't worked historically. Imperialism has not worked historically, and in 2026, I don't feel that the entire world's ecosystem needs to go back to 1920s and the 1940s and the Cold War era. So that's pretty much critical. And what I also do want constituents to understand is that what happens domestically at home, the price of gas, the price of food, bread, wheat, all the things that we take for granted every day, all that is held together by a very thin thread. And that thread is the equilibrium with which we interact with our neighboring nations, right? And so prices and commodities and farmers and just raw materials for building, all those things are never stock market. All those things are inevitably going to be affected if we're not able to find a way to make nice and abide by the rules that we set. So.
Well, you came from a diplomatic family and from Ghana, and then you had a very good education. You learned history that so many of our students in the U.S. have not learned. So you understand the imperialistic way, and then how to navigate that way and how to coexist, equilibrium. However, let's say you won already, and then you are serving as a U.S. Senator. What would you do concerning what is happening now?
Well, I think, first of all, every member, whether you're in Congress or Senate, we need all our partners and elected officials to come together and to kind of have one unified voice on what it is that is American, what our values are, going back to the principles of our forefathers, to when our diplomacy and foreign policies were at its best. And I think America thrives best when it has an open policy to new ideas. I mean, the country has flourished because it's a melting pot, right? And that is what makes America the greatest nation. And if we want to maintain that, we can't regress to periods of times where we are actually bullying others instead of coexisting. And so one priority would be having rules of engagement and redefining what our foreign policy looks like, what our constitution and what rules and standards are going to be upheld, and to set a track record and a precedence where no one is above the law, because ultimately that is the only thing that keeps us all safe, and that is the only thing that keeps us all working together and collaborating. Is if rules are set, then everyone needs to abide by it, and that's pretty much what a civilized society and a civilized nation should be aspiring to, and that's just that. So coming to the basics.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems as if when I watch the news and absorb as much as I can, I do not see many people in Congress, serving members, doing that. What do you think is holding them back?
I think, we all bring very diverse backgrounds and very diverse experiences to the table, which is great. I do think that there is a need for a more robust understanding of what it means to serve. Primarily understanding domestic issues and understanding the nitty-gritty details of your constituents in your states, but also in the same breath understanding that your constituents are made up of people who are from all over the world, who are interconnected to the global majority and the global world, and understanding that being able to effectuate foreign policy that works in a collaborative way is also protecting America's interests, right? When the rest of the world turns its back on the United States, not to, have an old analogy, but, you can't live on your own island, right? You need your neighbors, and you need friends, and you need allies to keep this world moving forward. And so being able to go back to a state where there is a fundamental understanding of domestic policy of our history, but also an understanding of the history of the world and how the United States has interacted, what it's done best when it was at its best, and what it's done when it had areas of opportunities, in order to re-strategize and figure out how we move forward in this new modern world of AI and technology, where we're going to need each other and we're going to need to find new innovative resources as the resources that we know currently are becoming more and more finite. And having what I like to call playground politics in international affairs and foreign policy really isn't the way to go. It's having a level of moral integrity where you are doing what you say and meaning what you say, and meaning and doing exactly what you say you will do, and holding yourself accountable to the same standards as you hold everyone else. And that is the model of leadership. That is America at its brightest, and that is the America that the rest of the world is hoping to see. And it starts by electing individual elected officials and U.S. senators and members of Congress that are operating, whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent, operating with the same unified front of restoring the world order, and the U.S.'s place as a world leader that has integrity and treats its neighbors with dignity and respect.
Well, you had a very good education, and you were from both your family and from the school. So you said that when American diplomacy was at its best, what era would you say that would have been?
I would say throughout time, there are plenty of examples. I would say, the times where JFK was in office, you can see some of his foreign policies when he dealt with Africa and when he dealt with some other countries and entities. You can talk about some of the greatest Secretary of States that the United States has had, some of the great presidents that we have had as well.
Who would you say is a very good Secretary of State?
Well, they're on both sides, right? I know, Condoleezza Rice was a good one. We have, Madeleine Albright has been one as well. There's been Hillary Clinton was a very effective one. And so, each each person brings their own style and their own distinct experience and track record, and whether you are Republican or Democrat, and even presidents, right? You can talk about all the criticisms that you can have, whether it's Democratic or Republican presidents past, but there's always been one thread, and it has been a level of moral authority and adherence to rule of law, and a genuine interest in doing the right thing, and listening to different perspectives and voices, and actually moving in a way where we are collaborating and ensuring that the government and policies work for all and not just a few.
You're a proponent of education, and it seems as if you wish that our education system is better, so that more people understand things better, and maybe if they were better educated in the world order and the U.S. place in the world, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. How would you improve education right now? It seems as if we you want to have a better education system. What would you say is a better education system?
Well, I think first of all, we need to understand what, like education could mean different things for different people, right? And I think people have a tendency to group and have, there's formal education, there's trades, there's history. So just one, primarily having a very well-rounded understanding, right? I think also in the African culture, there's such a thing as, in order to understand how you move forward in the future, you have to kind of look back, sankofa. And so going back into the past in order to re-strategize and move forward. And I think having a fundamental understanding and never forgetting some of the historical atrocities that have happened, some of the mistakes that we all are well aware of, and the learning opportunities that stem from that, the reason why the United Nations exist and the reasons why it was formed when it was formed, the reasons why certain treaties and pacts were formed, the reason why we learned from the Iraq War and the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal and all these other interactions with Latin America and the rest of the world, and finding a way in 2026 to operate in a way where we aren't going back to a place where the United States was not at its finest and at its best, right? I think, especially considering the fact that the world is getting smaller and smaller, we are more interconnected, information travels so fast, and so looking at the landscape and the cultural dynamic and makeup of the U.S. and even the state of Illinois, you can find people from all over the world who are citizens who call this place home. And just understanding that what you do abroad absolutely affects your economy and the mental health of your constituents and the well-being of people who you are tasked with governing to the best of your ability, right? I don't think anyone feels safe when you are living in a world where you don't know whether you're going to be blown up to bits tomorrow or not. And I think, when you tamper and tether the line of acting so unjustly where there is an international uproar, both domestically and abroad, about certain actions, I think it really calls for exercising more restraint and more diplomacy.
Why is it that the United Nations does not have any enforcement power?
I think they're based on their treaties and their setup, right? It's specific countries that are permanent members that have veto power, and it's more of it's not proportional to the number of members, and so the United Nations was set up and carved out and built at a specific unique time back in the 40s. We're in 2025. The issues that are that the world is faced with today are different. The countries that were in existence back then are different. They're more they have more power, they have more resources, they're more developed. They're democracies that are not as new and have had, years under their belts. And so there needs to be a level of respect for the dignity and autonomy of each nation, right? And to be able to abide by rules of engagement that were set by the world, so-called the superpowers, in a way where you're not changing the rules or violating rules just because it meets your specific interest at a time. Because as we all know, life is a balance, and what goes up must come down. And the way you treat people today, they may not always remember every detail, but there's a sentiment of remembering the feeling. And I think the times that we're living in right now, there certainly is a remnants and a feeling of instability for even someone like me who was not alive during, the Cold War, a lot of some of the world's most delicate eras, but you still read and you're well aware of history, and it's almost like dizzying to realize that this is your reality right now.
So you got enough petition signatures. Were you challenged at all?
Nope.
And you received an invitation from the League of Women Voters for a debate. But here, let me see that letter again.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So they have a lot of stipulations. They say that in order to be eligible, you are legally qualified. You sent in all your paperwork.
Yeah,
right?
Submitted I worked really hard for that.
And then you are a formal campaign. You're campaigning. Yeah, but what do they mean by polling? A candidate must reach at least 10% in independent polling. So who is doing the polling? Where do they find the polling?
Well, I think for those types of things, you actually have to pay for polling to be done, right? And so in order to do that, you have to raise funding. And I think that comes to the next question on here, which is you have to...
Yeah, a candidate must be among the top 3 fundraisers in the race as of December 31st, 2025.
Well, as of December, 31st, 2025, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out who the top 3 fundraisers are, and they are currently the top 3 people who are in elected positions, who have the resources and the network and the ability and the infrastructure to attain that. And the majority of the fundraising, I would even say, if it could be looked at, was probably done at a time that predated this, campaign season. More importantly, I think it's important to hear from all voices. I think the state of the country and where we are right now is as a result of how politics is conducted. Everyone deserves a chance to serve their country. Everyone deserves an opportunity to have an even playing field. I can't speak for all the other candidates in this race, but just from my vantage point, it's not even a point of whether they already have the war chest, as they call it, or the funding. I can't account or do anything about what was done prior to, but the fact that an opportunity such as this, where the entire state of Illinois and majority of people have an opportunity to hear from candidates, that kind of has an opportunity to even the playing field. The fact that these types of forums are designed to only have the top 3 establishment candidates who meet all these criteria. It's not even that the question is asking to meet just one. You have to meet all of these criteria, when the reality is, knowing where we are right now in this with the resources and the way things have been set up, it is virtually impossible to have a polling or to have had to be part of the top 3 fundraising if you're not already plugged into the system. And where every debate so far that has an ability for people publicly to hear your voice and your message, aside from the establishment candidates, everyone else has kind of been kept out of debating on a stage on an even playing field. So
yeah, because they want to it will be televised both by ABC7 and Univision, but of course the League of Women Voters is in charge of the debate. And usually they're very reputable as to being fair, but over here they're not letting the voices of the rest of those 10 candidates be heard.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I will take your word for it, and I will go on an assumption that they are well-meaning. I think this is just a formula that everyone copies and pastes, and so I have every intention of reaching out to them and appealing to their, sense of fairness, and in hopes that I could make the case to allow not just myself but all the other candidates that are running in this race who have sacrificed a lot, because I know what it takes to get to this point, to also have an opportunity to, if at the very least, have their message heard equally and with as much weight as the other candidates, especially considering how disproportionately the other establishment 3 candidates are at an advantage over everyone else, right? But this was done by, the style has been done by, there was an indivisible group. There has also been the AFL-CIO debates. I mean, this is pretty much copy and paste of how the system is set up.
So, did you get an invitation from the AFL?
No, I did not. Actually, the invitation I got was for Congress. So I don't know if maybe it was, not looking into the fact that I'm running for U.S. Senate. But, it shows that there was not a genuine interest in actually getting to know who the candidates are and just kind of checking a box just to say you've met an obligation. And I think the people of the state of Illinois deserve more than just checking a box. They really deserve to hear from every candidate, to have the candidates debate each other, and to have a choice as to whose style, whose message, who they feel would be the best representative of that state all around, and the best person who's equipped to do the job. And it's not always the person who's been sitting in the job. Sometimes it's the person that you least suspect. And there needs to be a question of the candidates who have been elected, who have been in office. What have they done differently that they will do differently with this opportunity?
So you graduated from John Marshall Law School. You are a lawyer.
Yes, I graduated from John Marshall Law School. Yes.
Yes, and let's be clear. So you got invitations from 2 other organizations, and the stipulations are the same as this one.
Yes, not recent. So these are past events. But just reading this, I was really, really excited because I thought this was different. And then when you get back to it, yes, the stipulations are pretty much the same. It looks like it's set up to favor a specific 3. I mean, it's not like it said the top 4, the top 5. Mm-hmm. It said the top 3. So we all know who the top 3 are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even if they were top 5, it wouldn't be that disruptive. There would be enough room for more opinions and more different ideas and voices.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think what it takes to get on the ballot, if you have to get 5,000 signatures from constituents, and I know I came in with roughly about 11,000 signatures, and so. And I know some other candidates had 8,000 and so much more. So if a candidate has gone through all it takes to get on the ballot and has gone through the painstaking, people looking through your petitions and trying to kick you off, and you're still at this point, I think you deserve to have the people of the state of Illinois hear your message and hear your voice.
Do you have any other elected office holders that give you some advice about running?
I think, I've been blessed enough to have a lot of friends and allies who are elected officials, and I've also had a seat at the table kind of serving and, elected officials. And so for the most part, yes, and in a way, this is not new. It's just my experience has been heavily on the policy side.
So they don't want that many voices to be part of the debate. What do you think they do not want to hear from the other candidates? Do you have any idea why they would exclude you?
I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just a system that has been set up, and it just works to do what it does best. I wouldn't go as far as thinking that it's intentional to suppress voices, but ultimately, as we say, it doesn't matter what the intent is. What matters is the impact, right? And so I think there's absolutely no reason why all candidates shouldn't be able to debate. I think if you all have the experience and have had the seat at the table, then it shouldn't be an issue who you're debating, because you have a track record and you have the experience, and you should be able to articulate and debate anyone and everyone, right?
Have you held office before?
No, I have not held office before.
But you've been a government
official for
official.
almost 2 decades. Yes,
Yes.
I've served and worked at the state and federal level and in nonprofits for many years.
And that nonprofit is kind of tied with the state of Illinois.
Yes, they've boys and girls clubs. Yes, I've always held statewide serving public service offices or opportunities.
If our viewers want to learn more about you, Awisi Quartey Bustos, where should they go?
Well, please visit awisi4ussenate.us. That is the website, and you can find and learn more about me, and I would love to connect with you. And we're also on social media, on TikTok and on Instagram, on LinkedIn, so I look forward to connecting with you all and giving the next round my best shot.
And of course, if they want to send you a message on the website, they could do that.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, thank you, Awisi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching Community Unity Now, the D Tycoon Show. From Bill Morton and me, Trudy Liang, we thank you for watching, and we will see you again next week.